Greetings, everyone. It is GleeCon back at you again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we took what I thought would be a 1 hour chunk. So much for that plan. I thought, okay, from now on I'll chunk it by time. Well, little things happen. Life happens. Wow, life happens. And that 1 hour episode turned into almost 2.5 hours. With the Tauren Shaman as we began just a few quests in the Barrens. But we also did a Tauren quest to get the fire totem and the things that go along with that. So we do have half of the totem, which is cool. But that did add a big chunk of time on it, although it was fun. We've also been reading the Lore of Warcraft, the World of Warcraft Dungeons and Dragons campaign setting with the Horde Player's Guide. And in this source book, we've been looking at the different histories and cultures of the various Horde races playable in the game, and some not so. Last, we looked at the ogre culture and history, so stay a while and listen as we continue that journey with forest troll history. Forest trolls would be the trolls that fight the elves in Lordaeron, and they would be the ones that were originally playable in Warcraft 2. Ah, forest trolls, everybody's favorite beasties. I journeyed to the hinterlands and fought my way through some forest trolls to learn exactly where these guys came from and what made them so fierce. I was surprised to meet no resistance when I went to Revantusk village, where I met an old troll, Mosjin, who sat me down and explained all I wanted to know about his race. So when we get to the hinterlands, we will see that the trolls of Lordaeron are still members of the Horde, some of them. Before the Sundering Forest Trolls held a vast empire that predated even the Night Elves. Their vast Amani Empire, combined with the Jungle Trolls' Gurubashi Empire, fought off the Akir and ruled most of the primitive world. Oh, and don't tell the Night Elves this, but some rumors among both Forest and Jungle Trolls have it that Night Elves were created when exiles from the Amani Empire first encountered the Well of Eternity. They said it, not me. And we talked about that on the Jungle Troll episode, that is in fact the history, how it went down. Anyhow, when the Night Elves emerged, they declared all-out war against the Trolls and attacked both empires with their primitive magics. Remember, before the destruction of the Well of Eternity, Lordaeron and Kalimdor and Northrend too, and Pandaria and beyond, were one big continent. Neither troll empire was able to master the use of magic despite their voodoo, and were unable to defend against the Night Elves' powers. One final Night Elf attack shattered the Amani and Gurubashi empires, leaving the trolls reeling in defeat. Soon after, the Legion entered the world, and seething, the forest trolls withdrew from the Night Elves' lands. Though no records indicate that the demons battled either troll empire, I imagine that violence spread across the continent. The trolls must have fought the demons as well. They had no choice. At the war's end, the destruction of the Well of Eternity shattered the forest troll homeland and separated them from the jungle trolls, ruining any chances of cooperation, at least for the next 10,000 years. Here we have a picture of some of these guys, and they're very similar to the jungle trolls. After a bit, the remnants of the Amani Empire struck out into the newly formed continent of Lordaeron and slowly rebuilt. Settling in Zul'Aman, they conquered lands about them and licked their wounds, believing the Night Elves now gone forever, and knowing that the humans and dwarves were nothing compared to the Night Elves' might. Zul'Aman grew up faster than mushrooms after a spring rain. However, around the year 6800, that's negative, so before the portal, the exiled Highborn invaded Zul'Aman. The newly dubbed High Elves used their magic to devastate the trolls, driving them from the land they claimed. Once again, this mysterious power defeated the trolls, and they let the High Elves be, concentrating instead on strengthening the rest of Zul'Aman. The area the High Elves conquered became Quel'Thalas. 4,000 years later, Zul'Aman was a force to be feared, and finally the trolls felt ready to destroy the hated High Elves. Amani warbands left the city and conquered Elven city after Elven city. You all know what happened next. Reaching out to the humans of Arathor, promising them magic in return for strength, the High Elves finally fought back. The newly formed alliance all but destroyed the Troll Empire, a defeat from which the Trolls have never recovered. The Forest Trolls then existed as many small warring tribes, turning the territory of Zulamon into a constant battlefield. Flash forward about 1200 years to the Second War. At this time, a mighty troll warlord, Zul'jin, had accomplished an incredible feat. He had united all the forest trolls under his banner. The orc chief at the time, Orgrim Doomhammer, asked the forest trolls to join the Horde. In return, Doomhammer promised to help them eradicate the High Elves, who were also the orcs' enemies, and restore the Amani Empire. The offer was tempting, but Zul'jin declined. His fight was with the High Elves, not the humans or dwarves, and he was skeptical of the Horde's plans. Shortly after Zul'jin refused the Horde's offer, he and a war party he led was captured by a group of human soldiers. When the Horde rescued the trolls, Zul'jin changed his mind. He agreed to an alliance with the Horde. Thus, a few tribes of forest trolls joined the Horde on the battlefield, adding axe throwers, berserkers, and troll destroyer ships to the Horde's might. After the death of Gul'dan, however, it was painfully obvious that the Horde was not going to win, and the forest trolls ditched the orcs. Forest trolls were never known for their honor or integrity, unlike some better races out there. Zul'jin disappeared after the Second War, and most believe he died under a hail of Illyria Windrunner's arrows. His alliance fell apart, and the forest trolls returned to their savage and undisciplined ways. Since the fall of Lordaeron and Quel'Tha lost, the forest trolls have seen a great opportunity to retake their lands. They ignored the warnings of the refugees and struck out into the northern reaches of Lordaeron, actually conquering some territory. However, they underestimated the scourge, and now most of the trolls in the Plague Lands are undead monsters that listen only to the words of King Arthas. Despite this, more trolls branch out through the eastern kingdoms, following dreams of power and glory. Recently, a tribe of the forest trolls called Revantusk sent emissaries to Thrall. After some negotiations, the two forces agreed to a pact of mutual friendship and protection. I should note that Revantusks did not want to rejoin the Horde. They remembered the crazed and reckless Horde of the First War, and were understandably hesitant about becoming true members. And now let's read about the forest troll culture. Culture is an odd word to associate with forest trolls. Their entire society is focused solely on war. Even the youngest trolls are taught how to throw an axe with frightening accuracy, and more than a few are lectured in cruelty before they can even speak. Pleasant people, eh? I hate the way they characterize the trolls. There's definitely a more... They do have a culture. As intricate, as in-depth, and as nuanced as any. Like all trolls, forest trolls organize into tribes. They guard their territory with rabid ferocity. However, unlike other trolls, these guys don't even like each other. Each tribe wars with its neighbors, whether they're human, dwarf, or troll. I once witnessed a battle between two forest troll villages, and it was one of the bloodiest confrontations I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of death in my years. A single chieftain rules each tribe. Each village also has at least one priest or witch doctor who acts as a spiritual advisor for the chieftain and a healer for wounds trolls cannot heal themselves. Occasionally, this priest or witch doctor is the chieftain of the village, ruling with the voices of the voodoo spirits. That's kind of like ogre culture, and by heal themselves, I'm guessing they mean with their regeneration. Most trolls learn how to fight with thrown weapons from an early age, until all forest trolls are deadly, ranged warriors. Unlike their jungle troll cousins, forest trolls favor axes, particularly hand axes. Disturbing, since we dwarves favor axes as well, but in different ways. Mol'jin informed me that his race, while quick and agile, preferred brute force. Nothing cleaves like an axe. Mol'jin went on, and the feeling of forcing such a massive blade of steel through the bodies of their enemies is intoxicating. The axe is a symbol of bloodthirsty power, of cleaving through anything before you. His gnarled hands grip the air as if feeling for one of his axes. I could barely see beyond that scarf he wears to hide most of his face, but I swear he was ecstatic. That was one of the creepier experiences in my life. Forest trolls practice voodoo witch doctor magic, though priests and shaman are becoming common as well. Even with the Horde's influence on the Revantusk tribe, shaman forest trolls perform voodoo dances and create effigies, and their priests almost uniformly worship Loa, or the godlike dark spirits of their faith. The Revantusk forest trolls call the Horde their friends, but other forest trolls do not extend that title to anyone. Cunning and vicious as the forest trolls are, few creatures would willingly associate with them. Most forest trolls hate orcs with a passion, believing them weak and pathetic. They also like to remind the orcs that they failed to restore Zul'Aman to its former glory, and they hold grudges, boys. Humans and other members of the Alliance also earn the hatred of the race for protecting and supporting High Elves. Forest trolls also hate losing, and seeing as the Alliance won the Second War, it's not hard to understand why forest trolls hate us. Of special note is the forest trolls' relationship with the High Elves. Each race despises the other, and the two have been battling since the High Elves landed in Lordaeron thousands of years ago. Forest trolls hate the High Elves for invading their lands and nearly eradicating them, while the Elves view trolls as barbarians intent on destroying their homeland. While the High Elves are technically correct, they did take over parts of the Trolls' kingdom when they established Quel'Thalas, so I can see both sides of the argument. Due to the help from the humans and in the Second War, we dwarves, the elves, have been on top of this conflict for several millennia, which only made the trolls even more ferocious. However, with the destruction of Quel'Thalas and the loss of most of the High Elf race, the forest trolls see an opportunity for revenge, and they're taking it. Few forest trolls bother to differ between the three groups of elves, High, Blood, and Night, preferring to kill them all and call it a day. It's a bad time to be an elf in eastern Lordaeron. The Revantusk tribe breaks the mold when it comes to trolls. They are a good and honorable people. Many Revantusks have become more spiritual, learning divine magic that used to evade even the best of the race. The Revantusks are pretty civil for forest trolls. I'm surprised to admit it, but I enjoyed the time I spent talking with Mosjin. I wish them the best of luck. And here is some forest troll knowledge. What a character knows about forest troll history and culture depends on his intelligence and training, which a knowledge check represents. A hero who makes an appropriate knowledge check knows the following information about forest trolls at the indicated DCs. So, DC 10 of geography, history, or local knowledge represents something that most heroes know and more than half of just regular people. Forest trolls are a savage and barbaric race native to Lordaeron. They were part of the Horde during the Second War, and the forest troll hero Zul'Jin led them. But they left the Horde when they realized the Horde was losing. To this day, they hate the orcs for failing them. DC 15 of religion. This would be something most religious people know, and a big chunk of the regular population, as well as at least half of heroes out there. Trolls practice voodoo as a religion. Among forest trolls, every village has at least one witch doctor or priest who acts as an advisor or occasionally the chieftain. DC 20 knowledge of geography or history would represent a small portion of the regular population, and of those that are mindful of those traits, a solid chunk, but it's still, I would say, uncommon knowledge. Forest trolls used to rule a massive stretch of Lordaeron called Zul'Aman. They were the strongest force on what is now Lordaeron over 10,000 years ago, but were all but wiped out when the High Elves allied with the early human nation Arathor to destroy the trolls. Zul'Aman still exists in Lordaeron, though it is much smaller than it once was. A DC 25 knowledge of religion. So regular people don't know this, and it is rare even among the religious-minded heroes. Most forest trolls practice voodoo and revere the primal gods of the troll pantheon. However, some still worship Hakar, the soul flayer. And finally, the most erudite DC 30 local or nobility and royalty knowledge will grant specialists the fact that a forest troll tribe recently rejoined the Horde. The Revantusk tribe attempts to throw off its racist savagery and become civilized, following the Darkspear's example. The Horde and the Revantusk tribe formed a loose pact of mutual assistance and friendship. The Revantusk tribe is based out of a coastal village in the hinterlands. So we didn't gain a ton of more knowledge. I think that's why it was such a small section, because this is very similar to the Jungle Troll. In fact, I feel like as much as I am for extra lore and versatility, this was probably unnecessary. But either way, I thank you for taking a little stroll down Lore Master Lane and learning some more about the world and lore of Warcraft. I'll see you guys on the next episode.